Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. All right. Hello. Welcome back to Chase a Life with Kelly. I have such a beautiful guest on the show with me today. So many of you watched, my season of Love is Blind, and now we get to hear from one of season 2's Love is Blind castmates. So welcome to the show, Miss Danielle Ruhl.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Like I was saying right when we popped on, I'm like, she looks so beautiful. So if you go to YouTube and watch my YouTube channel, you'll be able to actually watch our interview and our chat here. But regardless, Danielle and I guess right when the show not even aired, but when all of you guys were being released, as far as who was going to be on the show, I just felt it. I felt a calling in my heart to reach out to majority of everyone on the cast, and just because I know what they went through, or that they were going to go through, perhaps, and just to be that support system. So Danielle and I connected probably a few weeks before the show of season 2 actually aired, and she's just been such a light, and I loved watching your journey. Just really, I know you and I had that conversation about just about mental health, and you're a huge advocate of such. I'm just going through your own personal journey, and I just remember I'm use this platform to share this journey. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad that you have. But yeah, I want to get to know more about you as a person. I'm sure we'll have a couple of Love is Blind related questions, but I don't want to harp too much on that because there's so much more to you than Love is Blind. So.
I appreciate that. That's one of the things that people forget. It's there are so many things outside of just what you see that make up a person or make up, their journey. And so being able to kind of showcase that now has been really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So I guess take us back. Who is Danielle?
No, it's a hard question because there are so many different aspects of who I am. So it's you got to see my funny side, but that is something that I like to continue to show off, and even Nick's funny side, because I think that's also something that was left from the entire experience, and also just how our relationship has developed and continues to develop. I also, as I've mentioned, have experienced some mental health struggles that obviously go up and down. It's not linear. But I'm also someone who, I'm empathetic. I'm there for my friends whenever they need me to be there. So I would just say I'm caring, I'm funny. Yeah, I might have some mental health experiences, but again, I want to focus on showcasing the 360 version of who I am versus just one element.
Absolutely. And again, I think you've done a really good part. You've done a really good job portraying that, what I've seen on social media. And I just love your personality. It is
Thank you.
Great personality. And I totally agree. I have experienced, certain waves of depression and anxiety myself. I would say after the show, I don't know about you, but I think you're still working. Are you still working
Still working full time? Yeah.
Yeah, still working full time. And so was I, but it's a lot. Now that being requested to be on podcasts and or other PR events or whatever the case is, or just your friends wanting your time, and it's oh my God, I don't know how, you don't want to spread yourself so thin, right? So it was a lot of that for me, as well as, I have my coaching business and all the things that I was trying to do too. And I stuck with it for a whole year, a little over a year after the show. And I had 2 panic attacks, and I had never had that before in my entire life. So it was a very scary moment for me. I went and lived with my parents for 6 days, and I was okay, I love my parents, but sometimes we can only handle so much of them, but I was like, I did not want to leave. I did not want to come back to my apartment. I was like, nope, I'm safe here. Everything is good. So, I feel like there's so many levels to depression and anxiety and anything else, mental health wise. But I love the fact that you're just speaking to it and honoring that journey for everybody. So it's really cool. When did you start, I guess, I'll just say like, when were you diagnosed with something, but like, when did you start feeling off, I guess?
It's interesting. And those are the kind of things that I'm trying to really narrow in on now, because you don't necessarily think about it, and being able to like pinpoint certain times or certain things that might have, triggered you has been really beneficial for me. I started feeling actual suicidal ideations when I was at the age of 8, which is crazy because I didn't know why I felt that way. I wish that, anxiety, depression, X, Y, and Z were taught at a younger age, like even in school, so that people can understand what they're going through, because I didn't know, what those words meant or that they existed, or how to communicate to my parents that, I might have felt a certain way, because there wasn't necessarily anything going on in my life that, triggered it, because you don't necessarily have to have triggers in order to have, depression, anxiety, etc. And so I was really young, and it just remained consistent throughout my life until I was able to continue to work on it. Communicating with other people was really beneficial, and I think still beneficial now. So the more I talk about it, the more I'm realizing that there are so many other people who experience similar feelings. So it makes me not feel alone. It makes them not feel alone. And that's been, really gratifying. But it wasn't until after college that I actually started seeing a therapist, because it was getting to a point where, it was getting worse. And so that's when it was more so focused on anxiety, depression, until I started opening up a little bit more about feelings that I had repressed for a long time. And that's when I was diagnosed, quote unquote, with PTSD as well. And so not having worked through certain traumas that, again, I try not to think about because I blamed myself for so long, really negatively impacted my self-worth. And I think that's one thing that wasn't necessarily shown on Love is Blind, is that it was always so focused on my insecurities or the way that I looked. But there's a lot of other instances that don't have to do with appearance that can contribute to self-worth or how you feel anxious because of certain events that might have happened in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Was it, like you said, you didn't really address it until you said after college? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that impression is when I started really talking about the anxiety and depression, but it wasn't until actually after the show aired that I had recognized certain things that had impacted that, once I started doing a self-love workbook. And so that really pulls some feelings out of you that you might not necessarily think about, which is why I found those beneficial. But it wasn't, again, until I talked with my new psychiatrist and my therapist about those events, because I held on to them for so long, that I realized that that was another contributor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually just looked at your story this morning. You were working through a workbook and sharing that. Yeah. How has, doing that type of work where you're actually having to write and like bring awareness to some maybe inner dialogue that is maybe new. Some of it, I'm sure that new things pop up for you at times. Like how is that? Do you have any resistance to doing it ever?
No, not necessarily. It's been really beneficial for me. And one thing I'm actually working on now is putting a timeline of events ever since I was 8. That, one, how they made me feel, and 2, how they make me react today. So there are some times where things trigger me more than they should. Like it's an overreaction to minimal things. And then you think back to, okay, this is why I felt that way, regardless of, maybe it was grade school, maybe it was middle school, maybe it's something that happened, recently. So really diving deep into like everything from, day one has been beneficial and helps me work through, how to get past it.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you were younger, before you did seek help, because you weren't understanding it. So like, how were you navigating that? I mean, that's a long time from 8 to, essentially 18, 22 years old. That's a long time.
Transparently, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. So I just thought, I was abnormal, and I didn't really address any of it until, again, like after college, when speaking with other people and them sharing their experiences, their feelings. And I was like, okay, like this is just who I am. There's a lot of other people who relate to this. And that's when I really, really started doing some deep diving, because I was like, oh my God, I'm too late. Like, but it's never too late to really start that process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Are you familiar with Gabby Bernstein?
I am not.
Okay. So she's like she has a nickname called like the spirit junkie or whatever. But she's like very big into just mental health and manifestation and all of that. But I'm reading her book, one of her books right now. It's called Happy Days. And it's all about like, she actually just went through, she had a lot of traumas, and she went through like EMDR therapy and like EFT tapping. Like she's done a lot of modalities to help herself like dive deeper into it, because she wasn't understanding like why she was behaving certain ways, or like why she get disgruntled about things, or short tempered or whatever, or just be in a very, depressive state or super high anxiety. She wasn't understanding it because her like neuro pathways had like blocked it. Yeah. Right. So then she had a baby in 2019, and she started feeling this like huge wave again of everything. And she went into like a, postpartum depression. But it was like, she's like a speaker, like she's, that's her thing. She does a lot of speaking engagements. And like this one time she like text the like event space and was like, I can't come. Like completely like canceled it. But anyways, the reason I'm telling you this is because her story is highlighting the fact like we aren't aware of some of these things. So it is so important to bring about that awareness and like to do that journaling type of work. I mean, she's giving like a lot of like journal prompts and that kind of thing to like help you understand your triggers. And again, like you said, it's like, it may have been something like a kid may have like looked at you the wrong way, but the way your mind interprets it, it becomes a trauma to you, So yeah, I love that you're diving deeper within yourself, and, you just have so much love for yourself. I mean, that really is I'm all about self-love. Like that is a form of self-love and self-care. It's doing that work.
Yeah, no, it's been really beneficial for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Nick, I mean, he's great. He's great. I mean, obviously, yes, we saw what we saw on the show, and it's glimpses of you guys' relationship and how that all unfolded. I mean, for me, my interpretation, obviously, I kind of knew you kind of beforehand a little bit, but I also have been on the show, so I knew how things are produced and spliced together and all the things. So for me, I was just like, wow, she speaks so vulnerable. Like it takes so much strength to be vulnerable and communicate, hey, this triggered me. This affected me this way. This is how I'm feeling. And then for him to hold space for that, like, is, I imagine that you guys' relationship or marriage is just, as supportive now.
Yeah, it's definitely. And one thing that I found was interesting and Nick speaks about is that I was actually one of the first people that he expressed that he goes through a lot of depression as well. But the way that I speak so openly about it allowed him to feel comfortable speaking openly about it in public platforms as well. And I think even that is one of the reasons that I'm overly transparent about some of my experiences, so that others can feel comfortable knowing that they can tell their significant other, their friends, their family, how they experience certain things. But one thing that we found is that, like my definition of depression is not the same as his. And so also making sure that we're learning how to navigate each other's, because my self-care habits are different than his self-care habits. And so making sure that we're listening to the other person, how they're actually feeling and experiencing things, so we're not making assumptions based on like our own experiences with mental health has been really important, and really learning how to like be there for the other person in the way that they need, not the way that I need.
Right. Yeah. Or the way you think that they need your support.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah. That is so nice. So do you guys have like, I don't know, like I mean, there's so many couples out there that are just, they obviously aren't making time. They're not making the relationship a priority. And it can be difficult to have tough conversations. We all know that. But do you guys have, like daily powwows? Like, how do you make the space to have these conversations and really truly learn about one another?
Because I think one thing is that we both recognize when we're overly stressed, when we are experiencing it, like when we come to the realization that we might be depressed or are hyper anxious, like we want to make sure that we're having those conversations, one, so that we understand, like if we are a little bit less patient with each other, that it's not necessarily because of each other. There's just external things that we're going through that are, causing us to maybe be, short or, X, Y, and Z, or need more alone time. So I think that's one of the ways that we are more open with it, just because we want to make sure that the other person isn't feeling like, they're doing something wrong. There are a lot of external factors that go into a relationship or communication outside of just like two people.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. What is your, I guess, like biggest go-to as far as like when you are feeling super stressed out, whether it's work or, I'm sure, do you guys have any relationship, challenges, you get a little stressed out about it? Yeah. Like, what do you think?
Right now, it's an extremely stressful time because this is an entirely new world for us. And it's a lot more fast paced than, the job that I'm used to. It's like you have to move on everything right away. And so making time for our careers because we care a lot about them, making time for the new opportunities that we get, but also like making time to connect with those people who are sharing their stories. Like it is a lot, and it does make for a little bit less time for us to focus on our self-care. One thing that we do is we do spend a lot of time together. We kind of turn our phones off and decompress and just like to, go out, go on walks, just sit on the couch and watch a movie. But I did start losing my own self-care routines because of how busy I was and thinking that I didn't have the time. So whether it be waking up early, going to sleep a little bit later, because I like to go to sleep early, and making sure that I'm really prioritizing that to bring back in the things that make me happy.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. What does your self-care routine typically look like?
Yeah. So it's like things that are bettering myself both mentally, like, and physically. And so like one random thing that really helps is like skincare. So waking up and going through my skincare routine sounds like almost superficial, but like just having that as a part of my, it's really structure. It's like, okay, I know that when I was doing this previously, I felt a lot better. So it is like waking up and actually taking the time to write, taking the time to just decompress and drink my coffee, do my skincare routine. And then after work, it's like, okay, actually making sure that I'm making the time to work out, because I also let that kind of slip through. And then you forget how good those things make you feel the longer you stop actually doing them. I stopped listening to music, and I'm obsessed with music. I'm a huge music person. And even that, like once I started listening to music again, it's like those small, simple things that you love doing, but you forget how much they positively impact you. So it's just like a constant reminder of like writing down like, okay, these are the things that have made me happy in the past when I started getting into like a depression or I was hyper anxious, even taking a bath, it's like little things like that. You just have to remind yourself. And again, like it's easy to write them down because you can forget, and to bring them back into your routine.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I have like my little savers like in my calendar. Like it's every single day. Like granted, it's from 5 to 8 in the morning. I don't wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore, but it at least is there. And so it's a daily reminder, like, hey, remember to like pour into yourself. But you're so right. It's so funny that you said that about the skincare. So I was never like a skincare person. Like this is something new because of all the brands that sent me stuff over the last 2 years, right? But I'm like, I found a brand that I love, and just the way like there's some type of like face oil. It's like my skin craves it at night. Like yeah. I'm like, oh my God, it's so therapeutic for me. But like even the morning skincare too, I'm obsessed now. Like I'm like, I will never not have a skincare routine. Like my face feels so different without it. Yeah. So I think that was maybe a mindset of mine though prior to, was like, we weren't born with skincare products. Like we don't need skincare products. It's just like extra something for your face. Or maybe I was thinking, oh, it's just like additional finance, like a luxury that I like, I don't need it. Right. Like, I think that was kind of like a limiting belief around a lot of things for me. It's like, well, I don't need it. So I don't need to like go out and buy these things. But yeah, no, I love that you have that routine. It really does. Like, and when you do step away from it for a while, I mean, just like you said, like exercise, moving your body, I mean, anything. Like for me, like even journaling, like if I go like a week without journaling, I feel really off, you know?
Like you don't have the time, but you do. But part of the benefits of it is that it kind of distracts you from the negative thoughts you might be experiencing. And so being able to do that and not like hyper focusing on why you feel a certain way or how you're feeling, you know, it's nice, you know, to take a little break from all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay. So a question about, you know, just, you know, your life did change. Your life did change in a lot of ways. How has being now a public figure, being in the limelight, do you feel like an added pressure on you as far as like talking about things on social media or like, you know, using your platform for things outside of maybe what you maybe are passionate about?
Yeah, I think what I've been able to use my platform for has been extremely gratifying. It's always been a goal for mine, like just within even just my close friend group, new people that I meet, to be extremely transparent. I do think I overly go out of my way to make sure other people are feeling good without focusing on myself. And that's, you know, something that Nick's trying to teach me is like setting up better boundaries, especially if I'm going through something, you know, telling people, you know, I don't have the mental capacity to do that.
Right.
But I'm a yes man. I am really unable to do that. And I think part of it is I've experienced a lot of people who have died to like, whether it be suicide or addiction. And I always think like, if I would have been there more, or if I would have answered their phone call, or, you know, X, Y, and Z, would I have been able to change that? And again, like, that's a traumatic experience. Like there's been over like maybe 10 people. And it's like, since Nick and I have been married, there's been someone. And so it's like, I have this phobia of like death, and I have this phobia of contributing to death. And it's like this weird thing that I'm trying to get past, but it is why I'm unable to set up boundaries more than, you know, some other people might be able to.
Right. And that's understandable. I mean, that is, I mean, I want to use the term like it's kind of like a trauma response in a sense, you know? And it's, you just have to continue doing your work, and the boundaries, it's not going to change overnight, you know? It's like sometimes it's interesting because recognizing like my own behaviors around boundaries, going to therapy myself, there was a session that I was doing and I was using the word boundaries a lot. And the therapist was like, okay, this is like not normal. Like that's not normal for you to like use that term so much. We need to like, you know, dive into that a little bit more. And what came to the surface was like, there was just so much like fear-based assumptions and thoughts and stories that I was creating, that I was like immediately just going into boundary mode. So that was like a trauma response to like put up these like walls everywhere. So it's so interesting. I mean, I love the fact what you were saying earlier too. It's just like you guys learning each other's levels of things, and how to communicate and how to address and how to hold space for each person. Because like you said, your definition of depression or anxiety is different than Nick's.
Yeah.
So I think that's like with everything. I'm learning that in therapy too right now. So we can all go to therapy and benefit so much. I mean, has it ever been, well, let me ask you this. Before you started going to therapy, was there ever like a thought like, hey, I should probably go to therapy, like when you were 15 or something, but like, did you ever have the thought of like, well, no, that's where people go when there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with me. Like, did that?
There is a stigma behind it, you know, going to therapy, like even in high school. And I'm from a small town, and it's one of those places where people love to negatively talk about other people, which, you know, people would say like, oh, I've found out that this person's going to therapy, they're crazy. And so I think that also like delayed it. But again, like I didn't fully understand my feelings either. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's like, once I started discussing like therapy with other people that go to therapy, just, you know, to work on. Like I have a phobia of blood, and it like really like impacts my physical self. So it's like even like things like that you can benefit from therapy. It doesn't have to necessarily just be, oh, I'm going through something. Also, I think that there's still a big stigma around medication, and so that has really benefited me once I started going on different medications. And so, but again, like in high school, it's like, oh my God, they're on medication, they're crazy. And so I think like normalizing that as well, because it does help so many people. But I think that is another thing where it's like, I was scared of people finding out that I was, because that would just further contribute to the negative things that they were saying about my mental health online. Like I was still scared.
Hey, gorgeous. Would you love to work with me on a more one-to-one basis, taking yourself, your relationships, business, and bank account to the next level? I want to invite you to book a one-to-one Breakthrough Plus strategy session with me. Apply for 6-month private one-to-one coaching or my Goddess Magic Mastermind, or simply dive into the Goddess Magic digital course bundle. Go to the link in the show notes if you'd like to work more intimately with me. I look forward to working with you. Yeah. Obviously I would imagine that you have created such a great platform now, and you've attracted not just people watching your show, you've attracted more of like your collective of people, more or less. But I mean, I know my show aired 2 years ago, and I still get those like naysayers, and people are like, oh, you like left him at the altar. I'm like, oh my God, it was 2 years ago. Let's move on. But like, how have you handled any negativity that you have received in your DMs about anything?
Yeah, it was really, really bad at first.
Yeah.
It put me in a pretty dark place. And I think that's after the show aired is when I really started focusing, on these workbooks or really diving deep into things. But that made it like incredibly difficult. Like I didn't want to leave the house. So that was really hard because I know my diagnosis. I've been working with therapists and psychiatrists for years, and just being diagnosed with everything under the sun, based on a very small portion of who I am as a person, was hard. However, being able to now focus on the positives of being able to have a platform of connecting with others who have been helped by just like hearing my journey or watching a small portion of it, understanding that it's okay for them to feel that way too. Or people that have said, like, I went to therapy for the first time. I brought my 7-year-old to therapy for the first time, because you're talking about the fact that you started experiencing those feelings when you were 8 and you had a happy family. And so those are the things where it's like, when I hear that makes like all of the negativity worth going through transparently, and it kind of drowns it out.
Absolutely. No, I hear you on that. It's how you were, I don't know, shown, displayed on the international TV. Like I said, I knew what you were going through, but to the world, I just hated how they, but it's crazy, because I also know like so many people related, and like that's like such a great thing about how they portrayed you too. It's like so many people could relate to you and your insecurities and how vulnerable you were and how transparent you were. And it's like a double-edged sword or something. It's like you're gonna have like the dark, we all have the darkness and light, and it's gonna come. It's always gonna be this like duality of like, there's always gonna be the positive and negatives that come through it. But you really have proven just so much, like, not that you have to prove anything, I'm using the wrong word here, but you just are doing a really good job. Like,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying my best.
Yeah, no, you are. So what has been, if you can share this, like what has been maybe the most challenging thing between you and Nick's relationship since you guys have gotten married?
I think it was like the communication. It's constantly something that we have to navigate. And again, like making sure that we are communicative about what we're going through outside of our relationship. Because I think like for me, at least, like sometimes I don't notice that I'm depressed. And so when we weren't living together, I had like this overwhelming feeling of needing to feel at home. And so when I was incredibly depressed, for example, I would leave to go to somewhere that I thought would be a safe space, whether it be my old apartment or my mom's place. But then I started recognizing like, there is no safe space. And he was kind of upset because like, I'm going out of my way to make you feel at home. And he was. And I just like couldn't find a place that made me feel at home. And that's when I finally came to the realization, like, oh, I'm just going through a depression. There's nowhere that I can run or hide to that's going to just take that away. Like there are just things that I have to work on no matter where I am. And so that was also something that was beneficial, but I didn't realize that. So it's like really trying to pinpoint certain things that we're going through before it becomes an argument or before we upset each other's feelings, but that's easier said than done. Like if he's incredibly stressed at work and I don't necessarily know how to be there for him, it could, vice versa, cause some frustrations. And so I think it really is navigating some of those challenges because we are incredibly busy. We're both working full time. We're both, he's working on actually launching his own podcast. And just like, in addition to that, the flying, the brand deals and things of that nature where it's so like new to me, it is hard, and you want to do everything right. And like constantly eyes on us. There are times where I don't even want to leave the house because I'm like, okay, I'm really sad today. But if I look sad and I'm unable to like make fans happy, that's going to give me massive anxiety. But sometimes I can't talk, and so that's like, I'm scared to go to the grocery store sometimes because I do have this reputation of not being the most positive person. Right. And so it's just hard, but then I feel worse because I'm not leaving the house. And so those are some of the things that I'm kind of going through now where it's like, I need to stop caring so much about what people think about me and trying to change their opinions. Like it is important to me to change their opinions because I don't appreciate the way that I was portrayed, but
Totally.
I need to stop obsessing over it.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. I mean, I was not portrayed like you or Jessica even. But I did get a certain narrative and it was that, I just always wanted to be like, well, this is what really happened. Right? You don't know me.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It was so hard. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm such like a honest person. I just want like the world to know, but it's like, okay, you can like sit there and like defend yourself as much as you want. Like there's some people that are just like not going to get it, or they're going to just believe what they see on the TV and it's just whatever. So,
like,
but
yeah. People who don't go and do a deep dive on my Instagram or meet me in person are always going to have their assumptions. I'm just like, why would you follow me or go out of your way to reach out? I don't know. They do, but that's whatever. But it's interesting. Like every single time I meet someone in person, they're like, oh my God, like you're an entirely different person. You're actually X, Y, and Z. Like, and that's good to hear, but it's also like, I wish I could meet every single person in person so that they would understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. That's what, the unfortunate thing about reality TV is it's only showing a glimpse of the person, and or exaggerating a person and how they really, how they are. Yep. So that is unfortunate, but then we have our platforms and that's where we can, show up and hope that, like I said, you kind of attract this like collective of people who are on your side and they just love everything that you're about. And that's a beautiful thing. So
yeah. That's like the benefits of this is like a lot of the people who reach out to me have helped me as well. Because they're like, I experienced X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, like I didn't realize that either. And so like, there's so many people thanking me, but I'm like, I want to thank you back. Like it is nice to have like this group of people who some of them I've developed like actually close relationships virtually. And it's been beneficial for me as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. I'm sure that there have been so many times. Well, it's also too, like now having this platform and just the space that you are in as far as like studying your own mental behavior, like your own mindset and your own behaviors and that kind of thing. Like it does allow you to have more perspective and empathy for other people. So, receiving, granted, I receive messages sometimes and like my initial instinct may be like, I got triggered and I'm about to like write them back something. And then I'm like,
it's hard.
You're doing exactly what they're doing to you. Like, don't. And so I'll erase and I may just like, I might try and type something out that's like kind, but like also acknowledging, but also respecting my own opinion. But then I'm like, it's not even worth the energy. And sometimes I just like hit the like or just like, okay, yeah, sending you love and like just go on out of my space.
Like that's what they want. The more you fuel the fire, they're more gonna do it.
Exactly.
So there have been so many times, again, like I've typed it out and I'm like, nope.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's so good. Okay, I want to ask you a couple of questions that might be, let's see. This is just pretty basic, but like, what were your thoughts? What was going on in your mind right before you saw Nick? Like the doors opening.
It was terrifying.
I do.
Yeah, it's like, again, like everyone has their own type, and again, like I don't really have necessarily like a physical type, but I had no idea what right. So I was like more scared of how he would perceive me. And I think he ended up having, he had the same feelings where it's like, oh my gosh, like we love each other, but what if there's even like body language that we might not be used to? And there's so many other things that go into like hanging out with the person, like their energy, like, yes, you can feel it through the pods, but what if it's different? And honestly, it's kind of like the reveal is kind of awkward, and it's so hard for anyone else to like understand, because it's like, I'm engaged, I'm in love with this person, and I'm hugging him for the first time. Like it's like it messes with your mind. I was like, this is like the weirdest thing. And I got back and I was just like, I wish that I wanted to call my family right away to be like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to lose what this feeling felt like, because it's like, it is awkward, but it's like beautiful at the same time, especially because we were both attracted to one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you tell your parents, like, were you able to like tell your parents like right away that you were engaged, or did you like after a little bit? Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so annoying. I think it's so crazy. Like I couldn't fathom either, just like I was crying obviously like when Kenny was proposing to me, but it was like crying because I was like, what in the actual heck am I doing right now?
Well, I was like
I love him, but like also what am I doing? Like my dad's never even met this man. Like, oh my God.
It's a good point. But yeah, that was like, I was so nervous, and I can be like very awkward sometimes. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this, like I didn't even see him try and give me the ring. Like I just was like, so like, oh, all over the place. That he was like, is she changing your mind? I was like, no, I didn't see it.
That's so funny. Like when you guys, did he get down on a knee? Did Nick get down on a knee? Like when you guys did your
I think so.
Yeah. I don't even remember. Oh my God.
I don't think that they showed it or not. That's why it's like hard to remember, because I was just like, it is like scary. You're just like, oh my God. And there's like a million cameras around, and
so many cameras.
Yeah.
So many cameras. That was like probably the most just high anxiety moment for me. Like they actually punked me, not intentionally, but they like punked me twice before I even had the reveal. So I was like standing there, and Vanessa and my, the production assistant, they're like, okay, we're gonna like exit out the back here, but the next time like the doors are gonna open in front of you and you'll run to your man, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there like body shaking, compulsing probably. And all of a sudden, like I hear the door behind me open, and I was like turn around, and they're like, I'm so sorry to do this, but we're having like camera technical difficulties. Just take it easy for a second. We'll probably have this up in like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, cool. So 10 minutes go by, and I'm like standing up there again, and again, start shaking. Not as bad as it was the first time, but still shaking. They come back in the door, like, and I was like, okay. And they're like, we're so sorry, but we have to break for lunch. Like that's time clock. Like, yeah. So like, not like 5 minutes. I had to wait like a whole other hour now. And I'm like, you would think that I wasn't going to be able to eat, but I was starving. So I was like, okay, I think it actually helped my anxiety a little bit, but then third time's a charm. And then they were able to like get out there, but oh my God, it was so nerve wracking. Okay, let me see. Someone asked, was the wedding reception on the show your one and only, or did you have another one off screen?
No, so that was our one and only. We want the time to actually plan one. I think that was, sad. I was, a girl always dreams of her wedding, and we don't get to plan anything. We didn't get to plan our bachelorette party. I didn't get to have everything everyone I wanted there. My wedding was on a Tuesday. And
Right.
so, and it was actually supposed to be on a Sunday, and it was changed last second to Tuesday. So there's so many people who were unable to make it. Like Nick's dad didn't even make it. So we want to take the time to, like, right now we're so busy, but we want to take the time to actually plan something that is exactly what we want. So at one of our anniversaries, depending on how busy we are, we do plan on doing another reception, but TBD on when that'll actually happen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Ours was on a Wednesday, so I feel like, like all these people like take off from work to go to this like event that they have like no.
And the first email they sent out said Natalie and Shane. So everyone's like, wait, what the heck is going on? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't even have the time.
Sent the wrong invite to your people.
Yeah.
What? What? Yeah. Oh my God. Would you ever consider sending like, well, I guess you're already married, but like invitations like that, like through Evite? I mean, would you have done that? Like, had you not been married?
No, I think about that. It's like, you want to send the cards, you want to take the pictures, and like, we don't have wedding pictures. So it's like, I want to retake those. Like, there's so many different things that you dream of your entire life. And granted, like, it is what I signed up for. I knew that. And obviously it ended in a positive way. So that's kind of on the back burner, but it's definitely something that we want to redo.
Yeah. Did you guys not get any of your wedding, or did they not take any pictures of you guys' wedding?
They took a few, but I don't think they know where they are.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really sad. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I agree from Google Images.
There you go. That is crazy. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Someone did ask this question. You don't have to answer if it's too much, but have you tried the EMDR therapy?
That is something that I'm looking into actually right now. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. That was someone's question. But Gabby Bernstein talks a lot about that in her book.
Yeah, no, I've been like researching that before the show actually. So yeah, I've always been interested in that. It's just doing it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you got to go at your pace to do these types of things. What was like the biggest reason, I guess, why you felt so connected with Nick?
It was weird, but from day one, when we weren't even talking about anything necessarily serious, it was just like time flew. And no offense to everyone else I talked about, but those 7 minutes seems to just drag on. And like the second we started talking, it was like, it's over. And we're like, what? Like both of us said that. And so I can't remember if it was day 2 or day 3, but he said a sentence that it was exactly something that I've said my entire life. And that's when I just started crying, and I was like, whoa, that's not a coincidence. So again, like being able to connect on deep levels, our similarities, our differences, having absolutely nothing like left off the table. But again, like it really was just the energy that you could feel between the pods. Like we both knew it was each other before they even, turned the mics on. And so it just like was this overwhelming feeling that is undescribable.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's so interesting too. I mean, there were a couple of like synchronicities like that with Kenny and I too. I mean, like I would say something, or he would like say something, I'm like, oh my God, like me too. Yeah. So it was the same though. I mean, Kenny was like my number one pretty much the whole entire time. But like you just got those like butterfly feelings, and you've never met the person, like you've never physically seen this person. It was like, what is happening?
We were both number ones the entire time. So
yeah, that's so cool. I love that. So okay, so what are you working on now? Like, are you working on any type of projects? Are you working on anything that you're wanting to put out there?
Well, I'm continuously working with different mental health organizations, so that's not going to end. I hyper-focused on them in the May and use that to launch it. But, being able to partner with charities, I have one that's coming up, but it's specific to Chicago. And I think, I'm going to actually start working with Nutrisystem. So Nutrisystem is what actually helped me lose 70 pounds and keep it off. And so they actually read that in a weekly article, and they're like, let's work together. And that's actually something that I'm really looking forward to, because one, it helped me so greatly. It positively impacted my mental health. It taught me like portion control. And so like different things like that, where I was like very insecure. I was insecure to try it. And so just also letting people know that it's like, yeah, it's another one of those things. Like like therapy is, it's also kind of stigmatized to be doing a diet program, you know, especially like a meal plan like that. And it wasn't until another coworker and I did it together that I was even comfortable doing that. And so even just like trying to tie in like how my mental health impacted my weight loss, you know, that's really important to me. So that's another thing that I'm going to be like focusing on, is just like how mental health correlates with, you know, meal prepping, you know, regardless of what the program is. So I'm really looking forward to that, but always just continuously like vocalizing mental health, or as I learn certain things from the books that I'm reading and sharing the books that are beneficial. But
yeah. I'm so glad that you just brought that up. I'm like, I just had like the biggest like brain space. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I didn't even touch on that part of your life, your journey, but, and I know we don't have much time, but you're so right. I mean, I am a huge advocate that our like gut health and our mental health are 100% connected. And yeah, I mean, if you have to go through a type of like quote unquote diet plan, or something that is going to help you learn about food and learn about that gut brain connection, then why not? You know, like, I mean, yeah, I may not be like a huge advocate of like other things that it's like just, hey, you have a granola bar and like supplement with a shake every day. Like, no, like, and I'm not as familiar with Nutrisystem. However, if it has helped you and you have learned, you know what I mean? It's like, it was a learning tool for you.
Yeah. It's like really hard to jumpstart that.
Yeah.
Because how I lost weight the initial time, was very unhealthy. And that's why I gained back more than I lost. And so I was like, okay, like I need like a lot of guidance, because even looking, like I tried to do macro counting beforehand, I'm like, I don't know what any of this shit means.
Yeah. And so that creates more anxiety, I feel like. I used to.
And so with having a really strict plan that I knew I couldn't move away from was like all that I could have done in the beginning to help me. And that taught me everything else after, you know, ending the program. And so I was like, okay, no portion control. I know better, like the nutrients that I should have, the calories I should be eating. And it made me feel a lot better, like obviously doing it in the right way versus killing myself over it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so many of us, you know, do that. I mean, that was a journey of mine. I mean, I remember Googling, you know, bikini competitor diet plan. And now I know, looking back in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I know why these people actually, like when they are doing bikini competitions or fitness competitions, they actually have coaches to help them go through this, because it's so aggressive and it's may not be very healthy for the body. I mean, the hormones can get all jacked up, and especially, you know, if you are not being properly educated on when to do this, how to eat this, and when to eat this, and all the things, it's like you can really jack your shit up. And I did, you know. It was terrible. So yeah. So I love that for you, that you get to be like a, you know, a spokesmodel for them. And
yeah. Cause it's like, cool. I like finding projects that are really important to me. So that's what I try to focus on. And that is one of them.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I love that. Yeah. Keep spreading the good word, girlfriend. Well, what is, you know, maybe a last little statement that, you know, you want to share with anyone? And then where can they find you?
Yeah. I'm primarily on Instagram. It's DNELLRUHL, but that's pretty much my handle for everything. And I think just the final thing would be how much I appreciate the people in the community that I've been able to create. Again, there's so many people who I talk to consistently. And again, being able to learn from them is something that I was able to do on a smaller scale when I was communicating with friends. But now being able to do it on a larger scale has been not only gratifying because I feel like I'm helping people, but they're helping me as well. And so it's just like thanking everyone for them sharing their journeys and experiences and supporting me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, I'm proud of you, and I love watching your journey continue to unfold, and I'm happy for you and Nick. I really am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show. Yeah, so good to see you.
Yeah, I know, you too. We'll
I need to come to Chicago soon.
Yeah, let's go. Me and Nick will bring you to brunch and we'll make you put on some costumes.
Yes, please. I know my birthday's coming up next month and I'm like, should I have a theme party?
You should.
I know. I have to like look through all of your like past events and see if I can come up with a theme.
Yeah, ideas. Yeah, always have some ideas. So
awesome. Well, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yeah, you too. It's great talking with you.
Bye, honey.
Bye.
If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.